There are captains and there are leaders. And he was like a ringleader.
But there was like a fresher breath air, weren't they?
He was a
Suddenly
brilliant
they
guy.
just turned the one-day cricket world around.
So first you saw a paunch coming out, and then you saw the face, and then you saw the player.
You know what I used to love watching? I used to love him playing his shots to say third man or deep fine leg and walking his run.
In my opinion, this was also amongst the most entertaining World Cups that I have seen.
Venki Prasad was sounding so well.
The many conflicts within the main battle.
Just stand out there for you, those moments, beautiful moments. God, we love cricket.
It's in the air. It's a six.
Welcome to Century of Stories Cricket, brought to you by IDFC FIRST Bank, and I'm with my first journalist friend, renowned writer, Pandit. It's very fair to call him Pandit. He really, I take some liberties with this man, but he's a treasure when it comes to information and follow the game, knows every nook and cranny of cricket, and has made so much money that he's got some of the biggest cars out there thanks to IDFC FIRST Bank's ideas, which you've implemented as well. God bless you. Okay, Ayaz, let's start with the 1996 World Cup here. A lot of change in cricket. Suddenly the Asian subcontinent is, sort of flexing.
Yes, this time there are three host countries. There's
Exactly.
India, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. In 87 we had India and Pakistan hosting it jointly. Now it's expanded.
So you see, when we want to, we can get together and get things done.
Of course. And I think in my opinion, this was also amongst the most entertaining World Cups that I have seen. Lots of action, great action, and then finally a surprise winner for many. But what a delight it was to see Sri Lanka triumphing at the end.
All right, before we go to the end, Sri Lanka had what is called, we Russians call perestroika, restructuring. And that happened in the tour to Australia, which it's going to take us 2 minutes to set up. But there are a couple of things that happened. The team got together because Murali was being targeted by Daryl Hare, which you'll tell us about. And then, of course, they reinvented the batting style by going crazy hammer and thongs from the first ball.
I think the pivotal figure in all of this is Arjuna Ranatunga, who was the captain of the Sri Lankan team.
Figure is a good choice of words.
Yeah. A very useful cricketer, in fact, a terrific cricketer. A little ungainly to watch because he was not a stylist, but very clever. He would make these last minute adjustments.
Would also get groin pulls from time to time and not run between
not
the
a
wickets.
bad, a decent bowler also.
Yeah.
A very fine mind, and spunky, stood up for his players and his team. So, and that's what happened in Australia when they were playing a match against Australia in one of the in a bilateral contest, and umpire Daryl Hare called Murali for chucking, and
Also repeatedly.
Repeatedly he called him, and Arjuna Ranatunga just kind of blew it, and he stayed.
I think he changes the end and all.
He
to put
tried
it the other
everything,
end.
then he walked off, and it got to us. It actually sent the international cricket community into a tizzy at that point in time. But I think Ranatunga's conviction that he and his support for Murali just won the day for Sri Lanka.
Maybe brought the team together also.
And brought the team together.
They felt
That
they were
was very
targeted by the
important.
Aussies,
Yeah.
journalists in Australia. Everybody was against them.
Everybody was, they felt victimized. And that just brought the team together. And with Arjuna, who had this, the ability to get the chemistry going amongst his players, always had that. There are captains and there are leaders. And he was like a ringleader. Arjuna is one of those guys who we call a ringleader. So he just got everybody rallying
His
around him.
body language, not to make fun or anything, he had that sort of, like bully sort of body language about him also.
Yeah, this is funny, and no disrespect to Arjuna. So once I was having a conversation with Dilip Vengsarkar as a youngster, or was it Ravi, I'm not Shastri, that when they went to Sri Lanka for one of these, not a test match or anything, and they were introduced to this young Sri Lankan batsman who everybody talked very highly of. So first you saw a paunch coming out, and then you saw the face, and then you saw the player. So he was portly, but he was very swift between wickets.
A pretty good fielder.
Very good fielder, and very good hands, which was evident when he batted and when he bowled. And more than that, a great optimist. He never thought that he could fail. In that sense, he was very Miyada.
I was about to say that.
Like Javed Miyada.
I was about to tell you, he always reminded me of Javed Miyada.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Javed,
in the body language also.
In the body language, in the attitude.
Like, I'm ready for a scrap,
Yes.
Yeah.
Always ready for a scrap.
Yeah.
And if he got his focus on something, then he would do it. He would get it.
But going back to the Australia tour, he put the team together, but they were unheralded. Nobody really took them seriously. They weren't going to really upset the apple cart, not go all the way to win a World Cup. But where did the idea, because they had some good batsmen with De Silva in the mix, Asanka Gurusinghe was there, Mahanama was there if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And of course, you've got the great Arjuna Ranatunga. And then you have this new kid called Jayasuriya.
Jayasuriya and Aravinda De Silva.
And Kalu.
And Kaluwitharana. So I think the big improvisation, if I might call it that,
Was Arjuna?
Was Arjuna's decision, to make Kaluwitharana and Sanat Jayasuriya open
and go crazy.
Cricket and one day cricket had seen pinch hitters. We've seen Mark Great Batch of New Zealand in 1992 and so on. A pinch hitter opening the bat or an off spinner opening the bowling.
Deepak Patel
and so on. But to have pinch hitters at either end, both ends.
I wouldn't call them pinch hitters.
No, I'm just saying that kind of approach.
Yeah.
Both ends and opening batsmen.
What did you think when you first saw it, or rather heard of it and then saw it? What did you think? Was it being serious, or did you laugh it off? Like
I thought it was madness at that point in time. But then I saw the results immediately. I remember the match against India at Delhi, if I remember correctly. Sri Lanka was India. They lambasted us. Both Kalu and Jayasuriya. So, and Jayasuriya's reputation, status
started scaring the bowlers.
Yeah, he was intimidating. And especially with the horizontal shot, the cut, the hook, the pull, he could be deadly. And then he was a terrific bowler and a brilliant fielder. And Kaluwitharana, young Kalu, as they used to call him, behind the sticks, was, another pint-sized or atom-sized. Whatever.
No, but I think he gave as good as he got in terms of the Aussie tour at least. He wasn't perhaps as effective in 96 in the World Cup as he was in the Aussie tour, where Kalu was really making some good runs and making a name for himself. But the partnership worked in tandem.
They set it up. And it set the tempo and the tenor for the campaign.
Which people may not know is they would continue at that pace. So even if wickets fell, nobody slacked. They wouldn't.
So in that sense, it was a forerunner to what we see in T20.
Correct.
That you don't say suddenly now, I will hold one end up and you go from the other end.
No rebuilding. This rebuilding word was cancelled.
But that's also because they had the support of the captain. You have to have the captain's buy-in into such a strategy.
But you think he's a far-reaching visionary who thought of this is the way to play a 50-over game now?
Absolutely. I think he was ahead of the curve.
At the risk of being all out in 20 overs because the way they were batting, and occasionally they did.
But he was also of the firm belief that he had the batsman to
keep going.
And, address the situation if it was slipping out of hand. For instance, Asanka Gurusinghe. Then there was Aravinda De Silva, who, in my opinion,
amongst the best batsmen in the world,
amongst the modern masters who we seem to have forgotten.
Mad Max.
Mad Max, as he was. Do you know why he was called Mad Max?
Because he was driving?
No. He was. The first match he played, I saw that in Colombo. India. It was against India. And, it was a fairly tight match up to a stage, and then Sri Lanka, the home team was left with to get some 100 and something of 9 overs or something. In those days, 84, 85.
109 overs.
109 or 110 in 9 overs, something
so 12
like
runs an over.
And in the first over, he hooks Kapil Dev for a 6. Just pulls out the shot. Hits him for 10, 12, 15 runs. From the ball, from the word go. And everybody said, this guy is like Mad Max.
So the name came because of that?
Yeah, that he started being touted as one of those mad guys.
But there was like a fresher breath there, weren't they? Suddenly they just turned the one-day cricket world around.
And then Aravinda De Silva, Asanka Gurusinghe and Ranatunga himself.
As the finisher.
And the bulwark. The bulwark of the team.
You know what I used to love watching? I used to love him playing his shots to say third man or deep fine leg and walking his run.
And improvising.
There's arrogance in that,
That's because he was such a great reader. And as I mentioned, great hands. So he would nudge and push, finding the gaps, finding the angles, use the angles. And when it came to it, he could tonk the ball. He could hit it out of the park. So a great cricketing brain. Aravinda De Silva, one of the great batsmen. Kaluwitharana and Jayasuriya, terrific as an opening pair. Asanka Gurusinghe at number 3.
And then they have the bowlers to match it.
Murali
and Chaminda Vas, etc., etc. But take us through some memories of 96 for you, because again, this is one you covered. And you're saying it's one of the most exhilarating, arguably the most exhilarating World Cup that you enjoyed up to the point.
I enjoyed it also seeing how Sri Lanka progressed, because, they were, as one of the organizing teams.
After 83.
Yes. And, and they were a very entertaining team. India was also a very good team, with Sachin and Azhar and, all of them.
Should we have won it? Home conditions?
Well,
Huge superstars.
We were, in a sense, on the path to winning
So
the
what
World
went
Cup.
wrong for India?
Everything went wrong at Calcutta in the semi-final.
Oh.
But what amazes me still is that when
Could we have won it if the crowd didn't go berserk?
No, I don't think we could have won. Just too many wickets fell to Jayasuriya.
Yeah.
The wicket just kind of crumbled.
Yeah.
But it looked like a completely different wicket when Sachin was batting and scored a half century. And the minute he got out, because just everything went completely haywire for him.
Remember Vinod Kambli crying in the crowd.
But then again, Aravinda De Silva,
Yeah.
the knock he played, after Srinath had got 2 wickets in the first over, 2 Sri Lankan wickets, and then you have Aravinda coming and stabilizing the innings. They run up a decent score, and then they put pressure on India.
Would you say Aravinda was that kind of bat who always performs when when you need to?
Great,
like
great
comes to the
player
party
in a
when-
crisis.
yeah.
He's just basically a great player. I think, in my opinion, he's one of the most unsung heroes of international cricket.
Best Sri Lankan batsman? There's Jayawardene, Sangakkara, Roy Dyers.
I mean,
Siddharth
in the
Vetemani in the old
in
days.
the wake of Aravinda's exploits, and of course to a large extent even Arjuna's, though I think Arjuna didn't have the same finesse or the same range and repertoire that Aravinda had, or the quality and the caliber. As a batsman alone, Aravinda was a notch higher. But then Jayawardene, Mahila and
Sangakkara? Averaging 57, 58?
Absolutely. Tilak Ratne Dilshan was more like a Ranatunga.
Yeah.
Not in style, but that
But
category.
he also is one of those batsmen who became faster as he got older.
As he got older.
And playing that scoop shot, the little scoop.
Aravinda is, those who played against him or with him will swear to his greatness.
So not given his due, you would say, as a batsman.
Not given his due, everybody acknowledges his greatness. The knock he played in the final.
Come on, take us through that final as quickly as you can.
I was in Lahore for that match. And,
You're always in Lahore.
the final
Yeah,
was in Lahore.
yeah.
And one of the guys who came to watch that match
Who
was
did Pakistan supporters support?
Pakistan supporters supported Sri Lanka.
Okay. So they had the crowd.
Not the Aussies.
Not the Aussies.
And one of the spectators at the match, one of the celebrity spectators at the match was Mick Jagger.
Oh, nice.
He had come to see the match because he's a cricket freak.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
he was Imran Khan's personal friend. Imran Khan was, of course, out of cricket by then. But he was there. And I think he was doing commentary for television.
Oh, nice.
And there was this match, and the Aussies thought that they would actually steamroll past the Sri Lankans. Being typically
Also, in those days, batting first in the final was a big deal.
Ranatunga out Aussied the Aussies, in confrontation. So you couldn't get past Arjuna. And
They already had that needle going on.
They had that needle
It's going on for a few
and
years,
you
especially with
couldn't-
Ranatunga.
You couldn't hustle him. He would hustle you. And
I would love to
the
see
team
Shane
had
Warne.
just come together so strongly that.
How did he handle Shane Warne? I'm trying to remember.
I
Down
think
the wicket and over the top?
Yeah, Shane Warne had a great tournament. Remember,
Yeah.
they got into the finals beating West Indies.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, again, he took 4 or 5 in a
Yes,
cluster.
and in a very tight
Yeah.
situation. Yeah, so Shane Warne was their big weapon. But, Sri Lankans are very adept at playing spin in any
Arey
case.
Baba, Ayaz, that's what you'll say about Indian batsmen, but he just lost to New Zealand 3-0.
Yeah, but
Now we can't say that anymore.
1996.
Different
I think
times.
different times. So,
But the stretching, the
terrific
conversation
tournament.
between Arjuna and Shane Warne should have been recorded. Unfortunately, we don't have that. That would have been fun because
but
he always gave
I-
it back.
If you revisit that match, watch it again on television, and if you enjoy, watching really great batsmanship, you will realize why I rate Arjuna, Aravinda De Silva so highly. And of course,
He gets
Arjuna,
100.
He gets a massive 100.
Yeah.
He gets a big 100, and he is the pivot. He
carries the game.
He carries the game, and then Arjuna comes and finishes it.
Watching it, did you
Asanga Gurusinha also had a good knock.
Yeah, but watching it, did you feel Sri Lanka is taking this game as they came out to bat, or did you feel Australia was taking the game?
No, Australia was in the game for a fair while, but then once Aravinda got going, and I was always very fond of Aravinda. I remember one match I was listening to the commentary on radio, and India, Pakistan playing Sri Lanka in a test match, and this guy is approaching his 100, he's 90 something, and Imran Khan is bowling, and the guy he hooks him for 3 sixes, much like Sehwag would do later in trying to reach 100 and 200 and 300. Aravinda was that. Both similar in that sense.
So
temperamentally.
no eye on the scoreboard, or just
No eye on the scoreboard and
no cares, carefree batting.
Yeah.
Wow.
But also very solid, rock solid defense. Technically superb, Aravinda. He's one of the batsmen who was a joy to behold.
Time for IDFC First Fact. From 1975 to 1996, 4 different trophies were presented to the winners of the World Cup. 1999 onwards, a perpetual World Cup trophy was made by the UK-based company Gerrard and Company that's been presented to all the winners of the tournament since 1999. Now, how can you talk about a World Cup and not talk about India-Pakistan? Because that's like 50% of the World Cup in a sense. But this was a very special match. 96, Chinnaswamy.
Bangalore, as it was then.
Set it up for us because Amir Sohail was going crazy. And we had
Syed Anwar.
Syed Anwar is at his best already.
Most brilliant batsman that I've seen.
And then we had young Venki Prasad, the homeboy, local boy.
Before that, Ajay Jadeja, spanking Waka all over. So, I think that India ran up a competitive score because they finished very strongly. And when you finish strongly in a limited overs game, it puts the pressure on the other team.
Right.
They have to start well, bat well through the innings.
They did start well.
They started extremely well.
It was scary actually.
And that's where it got, things kind of hotted up.
But we have to talk about the incident. Come on, tell me, you were there. Come on.
I was there. I think the big problem for Pakistan was two aspects. One is that Wasim Akram didn't play. He was the designated captain.
Was a huge
he pulled out on the morning of the match, unfit, whatever. And the other was the great Javed Miandad was a pale shadow of himself. So,
dragging himself over the line.
Yeah, that was a match actually. He didn't deserve to be in that match in a sense that he shouldn't have finished his career.
In the subcontinent, nobody retires.
But, and we've talked about, India not becoming a flop show in the semi-final against Sri Lanka. But in this match, India overhauling Pakistan, very dramatic as the situation would be, you can imagine. Packed stands, very, passionate supporters.
People shouting, but then we were silenced by the onslaught of boundaries by Anwar and Amir Sohail.
Yes, because they started so well. And then I think...
what was that whole incident? So why did he point to the boundary and what is he trying to say? Like, I'll hit you anywhere I want to, something like that?
Yes, so he hit him. It was a spanking, shot, cover drive.
But Venki Prasad was known to be a bit of a sledger himself. So they were having words.
But they were having, they had a powwow and said, I'll hit you there again or something bowl again.
Smack him over mid-wicket if I remember correctly and said, once more.
Yes.
Something like that,
And Venkatesh Prasad didn't say much then.
He didn't say anything at that point,
He came back and of course he bowled him.
Yeah.
And he
didn't stop.
Then he didn't stop.
He used 4 languages. He just kept on.
And sent him back to the public. A very dramatic moment.
But the crowd went berserk.
One of the more dramatic moments in the history of Indo-Pak cricket and World Cup cricket. The other one which everybody remembers is from 91-92, just to take you back a little, is of Javed Miandad and Kiran More jumping. So these kind of exchanges between India and Pakistan, these were the forerunners.
So for me, I know we're talking about 96 World Cup here. For me, Sachin's Sehwag onslaught against Shoaib and Waqar Wasim at their best. Because those conditions were bowler
remains
conditions.
Unmatched in that sense.
And Shoaib didn't know what hit him. He was going, and he was bowling fabulously. He was at his fastest.
India versus Pakistan have always produced some, always very high tension matches. Not necessarily always great matches, but Sachin's 98.
But these matches between the matches is what we're remembering.
Exactly.
Like Venki Prasad versus Amir Sohail, Sachin versus Shoaib.
The many conflicts within the main battle.
Just stand out there for you, those moments. Beautiful moments. God, we love cricket. Guys, I'm super lucky because I have the IDFC First Bank savings account, which credits the interest straight to my account every month, and they also charge 0 rupees on all savings account services. Before we wrap this up, my last question to you, and this is a very difficult thing for anyone to answer. Do you think the 96 World Cup set a new standard? In terms of how a World Cup has been sort of, canvassed and shown to the world. It
of
raised
course,
the bar.
the hardship of having 3 host countries and then carrying it out.
Pulling it off.
Pulling it off.
No, but my point is the 96 World Cup set the standard for World Cups, as in the bigger TV audience, bigger reach.
I think the World Cup, the 1996 World Cup is very significant for one reason, which is the advent of cable TV to take cricket to all homes. Till the mid-1990s, even in Indian cricket, it would be the BCCI or the Board of Control for Cricket in India which would plead with Doordarshan, perhaps even pay them money to telecast the matches. And television and the whole game changed in terms of the business of cricket, where television rights became so important.
Ayaz, you're telling someone who grew up when I was a young boy, when I was 7-8 years old, the first matches on television, Doordarshan would show it, and we wouldn't know if the match is live or not because
exactly
nothing would be.
The game changer in this was Mark Mascarenhas of Worldtel. He started buying the rights, and therefore, paradigm shift.
But final thoughts on worthy winners, Sri Lanka?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, in that tournament, they were fantastic. They were entertaining. They were resourceful. They had some of the most... They had players for all occasions. Whether it was Ranatunga, big match temperament, Aravinda De Silva, great batsman.
And they were very upset because Australian West Indies didn't tour for reasons we won't get into. So in a sense, it was also important that
they wanted to prove a point.
To beat Australia in the final.
No, I mean Australia happened to reach the final, but they wanted to prove a point in the tournament, in world cricket at that point in time. They were one of the host countries, and they proved a point in the best way possible. They went on to win the tournament.
There you go. Thank you, Ayaz, for that gleaning us with some information. I'm using big words that I don't understand. They're gleaning. All these words picked up by radio commentary, of course, back in the day when commentary was more important because we didn't have any television.
Yeah.
We go back a few generations. People may not understand if you're watching this for the first time, but that's all we have time for. Ayaz on our beautiful show, Century of Stories Cricket, brought to you by IDFC FIRST Bank. Once again, he'll end with his left arm orthodox flighted delivery. This is the one that goes above the eye line. Go ahead, Ayaz.
Thank you, Cyrus. We'll catch up again.
Every time I ask you to move your arm or lift your shoulder, you come up with some excuse.
I've left my left arm.
But what did you bowl as a young man?
I bowled off spin.
Right arm or
Right
normal?
arm. And
Did the ball turn?
That's a good question.
Still waiting for that answer years later.
Some things best left unsaid.
Fair enough. You don't have to turn the ball to get wickets.
I know
Someone
exactly,
got 600,
exactly.
didn't turn the ball much. Yeah.